Hello jammy gamers and welcome to the Top Tips series. This one's going to be a series aimed at new players on console or maybe returning players pending the nice summer update of 2024. Ready for that Alpha 22 console release. Let me know if you're really looking forward to it. We here at JJAM.Gaming we are on our live streams. Check them out as well if you've got time. But yeah, let's just jump into it. So tip number one, and the lovely backdrop of me smashing zombies' heads, is around the tree stump. Now tree stumps have great loot in them. It can vary from guns themselves, gun parts, night vision goggles, and other treasures. So tree stumps are actually a good, worthwhile location. On the map, you got brown spots and black spots. The brown spots are clay. You're going to need that for a lot of your molds in the forge. And black spots are going to be the small boulders or large boulders or maybe even caves and big sinkholes. So go check them out. Number 3 is water for the snow biome. So dig up the snow, take it to the campfire with some empty bottles and just cook it up. You got water for days. It's an infinite water source. If only we had Minecraft hoppers that could take that out automatically, we'd be drowning in hot jars of water. 4. So when you're looting POIs and you smash down the front door or even the back door, hey, you can pop down to a hatch frame in that door frame just to prevent the zombies from getting in. You can also smash their heads over the top of that hatch frame and it creates a little bit of a buffer. Number 5. Zombies don't dig down. So this includes hatch frames. If you pop a hatch on top of a ladder, things like that, they won't dig directly down. They can't do that on console edition. So feel free to dig your base and build your base underground in relative safety. Tip number 6. So on the main game menu, you can go onto your game options and not the existing world options. But on game options, you can go onto your visual settings. You can change the gamma up. Changing the gamma up somewhere even 50%, let alone all the way up to 100 or 80%, is going to improve your nighttime visibility. Now, I like to try and play the game quite vanilla, and it's a very dark game. It relies on a lot of ambient sounds. But if you want it just to be a little bit brighter, a little bit easier in the night or mining, turn this gamma setting up, and it'll really, it can help out your experience. Number 7. So chuck down chests in POIs or the front doors or even at junctions of towns and cities. This is somewhere that's quite memorable, so when your inventory's full, you can dump a load of stuff into the chest and then come back at a later date. You know, just carrying the top priority items with you. Number 8, when you are looting here, there and everywhere, double check the toilets. So you get those human poos, which you can use for your fertilizer, which is just incredible for your crops. Check out the farming video to give you more tips on that. But also look out for pistols, for the classic video game toilet gun. You can find them inside those toilets all over the place. So they're definitely worth a look. Number 9. So the Iron Club, if you find this late game, or even mid game usually, you've got something better. You've got your guns or you've got your sledgehammer. So just either scrap the Iron Club, or smelt it in the forge, or just do something else with it. It might be good as a little reserve weapon or an emergency weapon in case you die out in the wilderness, but by and large, get rid of the Iron Clubs. Number 10. So also on the game settings, not the world settings, but the game settings, there's a checkbox underneath where you got your gamma setting. You can turn on distant terrain. So this one won't show you the distant POIs. It does help with the sort of hoverboard type thing. But you can also, what it's designed to do is show you the terrain in the distance, which is good when you're exploring and you're looking for that particular biome, the burnt forest or a wasteland, to actually be able to scout that from further away. So that's a great option to have tipped. Number 11. So when you're off looting, you're running out of inventory space, try combining your gun parts. If you've learned the recipe already and you have a couple of pistol receivers or whatever it needs to be, grips and barrels, things like that, combine them where you can. Assemble them. If you've got your workbench on you combine them, which is even better. But that was going to free up some inventory space for you. Tip number 12. Bulk or noob craft at night time. So if you're gonna go mining and hiding underground, I don't blame you. That game's scary. It can be an awful lot of stuff, particularly early game, going on above you or elsewhere that you just want to hide away from. But Boltcraft or Noobcraft underneath the ground, build 4 bows at a time and then scrap them all. Or 4 mallets, or build your arrows, or build your tools. Do something at night time whilst you're doing something else, and that can just help boost your levels, all that sort of good stuff, relatively for free, if you're doing other things instead. Number 13, going back to the hatch. You can stick it 1 hatch in the door frame, yeah, that's fine, we've covered that already. But how's about 2? You can do them inverted so they rest side by side when they're opened. You can have 2 in a single door frame. So those crawlers swinging at your feet, they might destroy the first one, but if you've got that second one, there's that extra layer of protection. It's only going to help you out. So pop down 2 hatch rooms. 14. So electrical parts really just equals Duke's late game. If you crack open those light bulbs, those lights on the front porch, all those sorts of things you find plentiful across the POIs and houses in the wilderness, you're going to rack up a whole bunch of electrical parts, too many for you to consume, even if you are fully lighting your base. So sell them for Dukes. Whilst at the trader, make sure you sell things individually. So you get more XP for your individual transactions than you do for bulk transactions. So don't go along and click the sell all button. Make sure you're selling these things individually to get the most out of your barter level and get the most amount of Dukes more often than not. 16. Use the wrench on shopping baskets in stores right after you've looted them. So if you are the scavenger, and Lord knows I am, you can wrench these shopping baskets to get another option and maybe try and get a slightly higher level. 17. So nurse zombies are going to give you medical supplies. Now, although there is risk in trying to take them down, they're one of the weaker zombies to try and take down. So in a pinch, you can go for the nurse zombies and loot their body and hope they've got a first aid kit on them. That'll be amazing. Otherwise, you got bandages, splints, blood kits, things like that can help you out in a pinch. 18. So bike tires are all over the place. You're going to find a vast majority of them all over the roads. So when you're wandering over the wilderness, you find your roads, you're going to find a whole bunch of these tires. Now after a while, you're going to find enough purple tires to stash and have spares and spares of your spares. So once you start to build them up, really consider selling what you've got. There's extra Dukes and Dukes of the trader. Traders are fantastic, and you can go grab your auger parts, chainsaws, all those sorts of good things from the trader. So sell unnecessary tires. 19. The infection. So different zombies, dogs, things like that, they can infect you if they hit you. Now, it's real. It can hurt you. It will destroy your wellness. But eating honey or antibiotics will get rid of this effect. 20. So, the chem station can be learnt and then crafted. It costs a lot of points, 30 odd points on the skill tree. You can actually find chem stations in the wilderness, in Booby Trap Bar. You can also find it in some of the larger, I think there's the Comedy Store or Brothers Theatre, one of those sorts of POIs. The large ones, they're far at the back, they can have chemistry stations in them. You want to break that down with a wrench and you'll pick up the item. 21, so the feral zombies, if you don't know what they look like, you'll find out soon enough. They usually hang out in the cities, but also screamers. They can call them in if your game score is high enough and the days are long enough. And you know what? They run during the day. They are 3 blocks tall, they hit hard, they've got loads of health, and they run during the day. That's scary. 22! So try hitting the walls instead of these doors that have 3 layers of protection. The scrap, the wood, the scrap, the wood. Try hitting the doors, or the walls rather, next to the doors, and see if that's got less HP. It can be done with vault doors as well, so inside banks, it's a good idea to hit the concrete walls next to it, because that's got a lot less health than the massive steel vault doors. 23, we're back on the chem station. Chem station, as well as the larger venues that I've mentioned. You've also got popping pills. So they're rarer on my playthroughs. I can never really find them. I really struggle. But popping pills can have chem stations out the back, as well as other things like vitamins and antibiotics. They're a really great POI. If you do find it, mark on the map and come back to it every 30 or days when the loop respawns. Hey, little bonus tip. 24. So zombies are hard-coded to try and go for doors and door frames. So if you're hiding in the POI, you'll notice they always seem to zigzag and they seem to find the door or the doorway. Confuse them by blocking up that entrance and making a solid wall, then they won't necessarily know where to go. If you do want to try and funnel them into your build through certain ways, you can use doors or open doorways to try and get them exactly where you want them. It helps funnel them through to a kill chamber, a kill tunnel, what have you. Jumping into number 1 then. Jam sandwiches can be turned into mouldy bread and then turned into antibiotics. These antibiotics are going to be really good for selling at the trader for dukes. Quite a good few dukes, so save up your bread, don't just bin it, it can be used later on. Tip number 2, animals won't spawn without natural environments, and they won't spawn near your base. Now natural is in sort of, in inverted commas or italics there. They need like a grassy area. They need a relatively untouched area. Otherwise, it's classed as being sort of player influenced, and they're not going to spawn near the player or anything that the player has been near or influenced really. So you got to either leave an area for a very long time and come back later on. You got to leave it relatively natural, or you got to go off adventuring to find your animals. Tip number 3, so talking around bases, you can use frames to flatten out the land around your base. This will make it a little bit easier to plan the route the zombies are going to take, and it's going to be easier for your headshots, whether it's with your melee weapons or your ranged weapons. If the ground does elevate or drop, then you're going to still have to fill it in, but flattening the ground with frames and picking the frames back up is a nice cheap and easy way to flatten that ground. Tip number 4, repairing will always reduce the item by the same amounts, so choose wisely when you're going to repair your items. It doesn't matter if it's level 250, it doesn't matter if it's level 600. If your repair skill or upgrade skill, whatever it needs to be, is of a certain level and it's going to reduce by 5, it will always reduce by 5. It also doesn't matter about the durability of the weapon mode. 80% full or 20% full on the durability. If you're going to drop 5 levels, you're going to drop 5 levels. Choose when's best to upgrade, or rather, repair your items. Tip number 5, 90% of wells you find in the world are going to lead to bunkers. So if you find a well, have a look down it. You might need to crack open the hatch. You might need to jump down, avoid the spikes, destroy where the spikes may be. Get through the bunker door, but there will be a nice, safe bunker there. Tip number 6. Nav's game map is okay. It's alright. It's more of a beginner's map though. So it's a set of biomes, all of the POIs, even resources, rare ones like gold or silver ore can be just looked up on the internet. So in terms of it being a nice, easy map, go for the Nav's game. Tip number 7, so forge bases are great for screamers. Forges generate a lot of heat, literally as well as the heat that the game deems worthy of calling in screamers. Now you can just use campfires, but they're not as good or useful as forges in this scenario. Chem stations, that also generates heat. Cement mixers, they also generate heat. Have a mixture, that's likely what you're going to have in your base anyway, but if you're going for it, forges are going to be a nice middle ground. They're not terribly expensive, but they still generate a lot of heat. Tip number 8. So hitting zombies and animals on your mini bike is going to reduce the durability of your mini bike. So although it's tempting to run them down, they're not always going to get killed by a single swipe from your mini bike. So really, is it worth it? Probably not. Just avoid zombies and carry on your journey. Tip number 9. Core blocks add lag to your world. So they don't just add heat generation. For those screamer spawns, they actually add lag. So if you are off and about, even if you're off exploring the other side of the world to your base, destroying those gold blocks is a good idea. They count as an entity, and they will get loaded in, and they will be remembered by the game for a period of time. Tip number 10, the wasteland biome is just horrid. So really, unless you've got a mini bike, stay clear. And if you have a mini bike, probably stay clear. Definitely stick to the roads. There are landmines all over the wasteland. They can be the hubcap mines, they can be the little blue or candy tin mines, whatever they're called. So, really not nice. And every other zombie seems to be a dock. On harder difficulties, really, it's absolutely horrible. On easier difficulties, nah, not that bad. But yeah, really consider twice if you're going into the wasteland biome. Number 11. So challenges that you find on the floor, they're great, but you might want to consider saving them for Horde Night. Or if you've got some sort of screamer farm. If you've got a screamer farm or a Horde Night or even both combined, that way you're going to generate all the zombies that you need to tick off 90% of these challenges and really have a good, fair chance of getting those bonus skill points. Later on in the game, they're going to be important. Tip number 12. Crouch just before hitting the ground, and that will give you less damage. So it's going to take a lot of practice, or maybe a lot of luck, maybe even both. But if you crouch just before hitting the ground, you will take less damage. Tip 13, might be obvious, maybe not, doesn't really play out with the real world, but if you drink water, dirty or otherwise, you're going to be able to put out the fire effect. It also works with teas and yuck. Tip 14, so destroying and looting the burnt zombies in the burnt forest biome gives you a chance to drop charred meat. Now, it is a great food source, it does fill you up in reasonable amounts, and it is going to make you a little bit thirsty, but hey, needs must. 15, you can upgrade blocks from wood all the way through to steel, but don't. It is terrible. Few resources, and if destroyed, it won't go back down through each tier. So for example, if you have blocks that are wood level 2, if that wood level 2 gets destroyed, inverted commas, it'll go down to wood level 1. However, if concrete level 1 breaks, it doesn't go down to scrap level 2. It will just break. So if you go from wood all the way through to scrap, then blah 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 blah, all the way through to steel, even reinforced steel right at the very end, it won't go back down through to scrap, then through to wood, it will just be destroyed. 16. Structural integrity. So that is real in this game. It is tricky. I've got a short, there's even like a video on it actually on the channel, so go check that out. It is quite helpful to give you a little bit more detail than this quick tip will. Tip number 17. So if you ever wondered what the little bag icon in the very top left of your inventory is, it's an auto sort inventory button. Give it a click, see what it does. If you don't like it, well, too late. But don't do it again. Tip 18. Snowberries are not farmable and have a very limited use. So have a look in the chem bench if you make the snowberry extract, which then can be made into the drink. But really, have a little look as to whether it's worth the time frame. It can be sold at the trader, that's what I do with the extract at least. But there you go, that's what you use snowberries for. Tip 19. If you crouch, you can actually reach one block further. So really handy if you clean up that horde base after horde nights, and things like that, you can crouch to place things or grab things one block further. Tip number 20. The perfect, inverted commas, mining level is -20 to -40. This area is where you're going to find the most amount of resources. Depending on what biome you go in, depends on what resource you get. But have a little look between -20 and -40 for the richest areas. 21. Use rebar to go into concrete and not ×2 concrete. Okay, so you can spend 5 scrap or 5 iron rather from a forge to build the rebar frames, and then use 10 concrete powder to upgrade that into concrete, Or you can do your concrete blocks with 10 concrete, and then upgrade that to reinforced for another 10. Okay, so I think 5 iron, 10 concrete is a lot better than 20 concrete. Tip 22. So airdrops disappear when you log out, so if you really want to go and hunt them next time, mark them on the map. Tip 23. If you dismantle guns and then sell the parts to the trader, you can carry on making money if you've already sold him the max amount of guns you can. See, trader can only hold 3 of the same item, 3 pistols for example. However, he can hold 3 pistols, 3 pistol barrels, 3 pistol magazines, etc, etc, etc. So dismantle guns or trading with him if you've already traded lots of the same item too. Tip 24. So the hub city, random gen, is always going to be bang in the middle of the map at coordinates 0, 0. So that's handy. It does have harder mobs, lots of dogs, the odd bear. Feral zombies are going to be roaming around in the day. More policemen and bees. But, you know, it can be quite valuable. There's a lot of safes to crack open. Almost every single building, blown out building or plot of land in the city is going to have a safe in it. If not, you're going to find other POIs like shotgun messiahs and things like that working stiffs. So it's worth going in. Really tricky on harder difficulties before you get kitted out. But have a little look. Take it easy. And have a look in the city at 0, 0. So that's it for this video. We do have a couple more tips because we've run out of videos for this thing. I've got 4 more tips, 4 more bonus tips if you like. So let's quickly fly through as a little 28 tips on this one. So really quickly, if you start a new world, you have a 32 block safe zone around you. So that's where zombies won't spawn, they won't enter, so that gives you a little bit of a buffer before the onslaught starts. 26 will be that the auger, both hard and soft stuff, is still very good. You can use the auger on clay and dirt. It is going to churn up and much resource far quicker than spades and things like that. 27, the treasure is always 3 blocks down. The only exception would be hillsides and maybe underwater. So underwater, if it does fall there, the treasure should be on the surface. So on the hillside, because of the slope and the angle, it might count as 4 blocks or it might count as 2 blocks, depending on how lucky you are. And tip 28, like and subscribe for more fantastic content. Got ya! Right, but no, thank you very much, Jammy Gamers. That's it for today. Tip number 1 is, as well as dismantling, the wrench can actually upgrade or repair items. R2 is the destroy button and L2 is the repair button, just like the claw hammer or just like the stone axe. Tip number 2. Anti-products are easy once you've got the chemistry station. So they need old sandwiches and a couple of other small ingredients, but they're cheap, they're cheerful. Smash them out, don't throw away those old sandwiches, and they sell for a good value at the trader. Number 3, screamers will call in zombies plus whatever aim score level you're at. So you can call in just a handful of zombies you can take out, or they could call in their plus horde. So the really tough one with a feral, a cop, or wasp. They can seem to call in the odd dog here and there. So screamers do call in zombies, and they can be of varying difficulties, so watch out. Take them out when you can. Number 4, the weather, whether it be hot, cold, blah blah blah, clothes can help you reduce your temperature or increase your temperature. So watch out which ones you're putting on. You can press triangle on these items and see what they do, whether they add temperature or they lose temperature. Also, for temperature as well, whether you're in hot and cold temperatures, you can also use teas and foods, things like that, to increase or reduce your body temperature. So have a little look. It's a really good consideration to make sure you're doing the right thing for the right environment. Number 5, so the mini bikes off a cliff. So they do take damage. Hitting your mini bike on cactus, hitting the mini bike on landmines, things like that are going to damage your mini bike. Now the landmines is going to destroy your mini bike. It's going to reduce it to 0 durability. So watch out it all adds up, right? Even hitting zombies, like I say, is gonna do you damage on your mini bike. And all of that will add up and it will reduce the performance of it. So watch out on your mini bike, guys. Number 6, another one for screamers. So lighting fires in the forge or campfires, as well as doing activities like mining, chopping down woods, using guns, even gore blocks on the floor. Pretty much everything that the player does, or a result of what the player does, is going to create something called heat. Now heat is an invisible marker, but enough heat in a local area is going to call in a screamer, and then more and more screamers can appear for the most amounts of heat you produce. So watch out when you're producing that heat. If you're on an easier game, turn off all those things that you don't need running. Tip number 7. So to level up your medicine, use bandages and splints. It's a little bit frustrating, it might take a little bit of fiddling around with, but you notice that these guys you can mass produce via tailoring, via medicine, for that sort of stuff. But if you use it, that gives you some medicine skill, and it's free XP. You can do it at night time, or when you're traveling from A to B on foot. Just use these things, it just feed into the XP pool. Number 8 tip is to take your workbench with you. If you go exploring, if you carry a workbench and a wrench, make sure you got a wrench to dismantle it afterwards. But if you're carrying a workbench, you can actually combine a lot of items, whether it be just clothes on the floor, if you're not going to break them down for cloth, whether it's gun parts, whether it's tools. You can take this workbench with you, keep it in your inventory, and combine these items to save inventory space. Tip number 9. So don't build straight walls. Spider zombies will climb up that straight face and be able to go in through the top of the roof of your base. So don't build straight walls. So what you want to do is just have a little lip at the top, just 1 block wide. Sometimes the poles will help out as well, although they can sort of glitch up corners, so be wary of that. But it's easy enough. As long as you don't mind the aesthetic, do 1 block lip around the top of your build, and that'll prevent the spider zombies climbing up. Tip number 10, when you're selling guns, make sure you empty the magazine. You can do this easily by assembling the gun, taking a part out, and then just putting it straight back in. It'll automatically tape all of the ammunition out to that gun for you. You don't get any extra money for having more ammo in a gun than not, so take the bullets out, save them for a rainy day, or sell them separately. Tip 11. If you've got loads of leather lying around, or even animal hide, you can convert animal hide into leather to then bolster your inventory. Tip number 12 goes hand in hand. If you make ponchos out of this leather, if you've got loads of those lying around, you can sell this at the trader for a good amount of dukes. Hop between traders to keep evenly spreading that out. They refresh their inventory ever so often, but you're going to want to spread out the load. Tip number 13 is around beer. If you keep a beer on you, or just before horde night, or if you're going exploring, have a couple of beers, have a beer, you get the buzz effect. And that buzz effect, although doesn't really seem to do a lot, it does actually stop you from being stunned. Which on higher difficulties, if you're stunned, that could be game over. So having a beer before you go exploring, or just before you engage zombies, can really help out. Tip number 14, the mining helmet doesn't care about the level of the items you're using to build it. So it doesn't matter if you got a level 600 American football helmet, a level 600 flashlight. It only cares about the armor skill and the science skill that you've got, which then feeds the level of the helmet. Tip number 15, if you wonder what that empty slot is on your guns, it's for flashlights. It should be a little icon to demonstrate to you exactly what it needs. But those flashlights on guns are really going to be quite helpful. They're brighter than the mining helmet, so really they can light up the way far, far better. So if you are in a dark situation, you need your gun anyway, stick that gun flashlight on. You'll be able to see a lot more, a lot further. Tip 16 is around hunting meat. So even with zombies actually, if you crouch with bows and guns, crossbows as well, you'll get the Skyrim-esque sneak damage multiplier. So this can be ×2, it is ×2, ×3 is for stun damage, or damage when they're stunned. So this little hunting tip when you're crouching using the bows and guns is going to really help you one-shot those animals and do an awful lot more damage to zombies before you engage. Tip 17 is also around hunting. So if you're hunting pigs and deers, wait until your mini bike. Yeah, survive off tins of food if you can in the early game. Once you've got your mini bike, just run down these animals. It saves all the faff of trying to hunt them and sneak up with bows and guns and whatever else. Just run them down on the mini bike and then get your knife out and carve them up. Tip 18. Stick sand in your forge, not just glass. When you're out in the world scavenging, you're going to find a lot of glass panes, glass bottles, all these sorts of things. You'll be tempted to scrap it or smelt it down as a whole. Don't bother. Sand is far more readily available around the side of ponds, lakes, or in the desert biome. Grab a bunch of sand, it's quick and easy and cheap, stick that in the forge, and save inventory space when scavenging. Just don't pick up the glass or just bin it straight off. Tip 19. Make sure you mark your bag when you die with a marker. Not a temporary marker, you can only have one of those on the map. You can only have one of these bag icons on the map as well. So mark it with a permanent icon, whether it be the little X mark to mark the spot of the treasure, because if you die trying to retrieve that bag, you're gonna lose the original bag icon on the map. Tip number 20, you can hit trees just with your fist or with an axe to check its health. You can check if it's a 300, 600, 900, or 1200 tree by giving it a quick tap. It doesn't matter in terms of the growth of the tree. Even with a bit of damage, that tree is going to continue growing to its full height. 21. The soil and farming and its returns. So whilst you're farming, don't plant crops on normal soil. That will give you one crop, your one seed. You're going to have to till it with a hoe, which is craftable in your inventory once you've got some forged iron. Usually, this will give you a double return. For certain crops, like corn, that one seed will give you 3 back. For potatoes and most crops, that one seed will give you 2 potatoes back. If you till the fertilizer into the soil after you've tilled the normal dirt, that's going to increase your yield. Things like corn from one seed will give you 5 back, and things like potatoes will give you 3 back. So fertilizer is well worth it. Tip 22 around fertilizer whilst we're there, have a second cement mixer, maybe even 3 if you've got the spare engines. It's cheaper to make fertilizer in the cement mixer than it is in the chemistry station. It seems to be a bit quicker, but you want that spare cement mixer to keep your cement in one, fertilizer in the other. If you have a look, although it's more resource friendly than the chemistry station, it takes a hell of a long time to make any fertilizer inside anything. So have a separate cement mixer to keep the cement. Tip 23 will be the small boulders on the map. They are guaranteed iron. They're actually quite a feasible source of iron, even towards the late game, if you just need a little bit in a pinch. They have 3 stages. Each stage will give you iron and some stone, and it has a chance to drop other resources as well. Whether it be lead, nitrate powder, or coal, you have a chance from these small boulders. So give them a smash. And tip 24. So the animal fat you can have in abundance by late game. If you keep breaking down those zombie bodies and the animals that you find on your travels, animal fat is not going to be an issue for you. What you can do is you can sell the fat straight off, or you can make it into tallow, which is going to increase the value when you want to sell it to the trader. Those are the 24 tips for you guys. Hope you liked the video. Give us a like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And drop a like or a comment even if you want to let us know where you're from. It's really interesting having a look on the YouTube analytics, and we're really excited to touch base with more of our viewers. Hope you're excited for the console release coming around the July mark. Until next time, stay safe, survivors. Catch you later.